Good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You've got Ricky K and Mike Patt here with you tonight, and we're going to be breaking down all things in the world of baseball, starting with one of the most eventful games of the season with the special Speedway baseball game in Bristol between the Braves and the Reds. We're going to talk about the chaos. We'll just call it chaos. That feels like a appropriate word that ensued in that one. Also, of course, we had the MLB trade deadline wrapping up this past week. Lots of moves, tons of players changing hands, lots of prospects. We're going to talk about winners, losers, and who our favorite moves of the deadline were. We, of course, then have our live score update. It is Tuesday, so everybody's playing baseball today, and we're going to look at who's playing well and some of the matchups around the league. We, of course, have our Who's Hot and Who's Not segment. We're going to look at who is doing great and who is not as we enter the month of November. We have our upcoming series to watch where we'll take a look to head-to-head. There are some good ones. I've already they're pretty interesting matchups. Good headline of the MLB this weekend. We have our minor league baseball spotlight as usual. And, of course, we are introducing a new segment on this day in baseball history where we will each take a fact or an interesting event that happened and talk about it. And, of course, we've got our Around the Diamond segment where we just talk about whatever is on our mind, whatever's really steering up there. We've got all that and more coming up on the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll hear a quick bit about our sponsors and get right to it.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your vacations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And thank you all for tuning in on this lovely Tuesday evening. We already have a little bit of action in the chat room. Brian Francione wishing us a great show. Thank you very much, sir. You've got Mike Patt and Ricky K with you tonight. And of course, reminder, if you are a fan of the network, please follow us on all social media platforms and check out the website, iesportsradio.com. And if you are a fan of this show in particular, do check us out on X at BP Bulletin _IESR for the show page. You can follow Ricky at Rickinator555. You can follow yours truly at IESR _DMB. And you can follow Alden, normally our third piece, not here tonight, but always here in spirit, at the AZTRL. And without further ado, let's get right into it, starting with probably the most interesting headline from this past week. So the MLB hosted a baseball game, Braves versus Reds, at Bristol Speedway. It was set for this past Saturday. Ricky and I discussed it on last week's show. Really interesting event, really exciting event. Not the most well executed, let's call it that way. Ricky, what exactly went on here in this game? Why was it? Why did things not go as well as they should have?
So we talked about this a little bit last week. The buzz was there. It's a standalone event, great, but you also consider Ron Acuna Jr. went on the injured list. So you're taking basically one of the biggest stars of the game out. Austin Riley's been banged up. You have the pitching match was supposed to be great. Spencer Strider, Chase Burns, but it rains. And it rains and rains and rains and rains. And Fox is showing you A-Rod and Ortiz and Jeter, and they're trying to stall as much as they can. Game gets delayed. It starts, I think, after like 2.5 hours. They play one inning.
2.5 hours.
One inning. And then decide, yeah, we'll play tomorrow. So you waited to play one inning where the starters already are not going to pitch tonight. So nobody's staying up at 9:30, 10 Eastern, even on a Saturday to watch a bullpen game essentially from both teams. Basically blew both their bullpens out. On top of that, the concession stands ran out of food. Some of the seats people were in, people couldn't even see the game. They had to watch on the scoreboard, the Jumbotron, which I'm like, if I got to watch at a Jumbotron, I probably was better off staying home. I don't know why, and you look at the way it was configured. If a guy hit a ball barely over the wall, the ball landed on the track. Nobody got a souvenir. I was surprised how far the stands were from the actual playing surface. Again, great idea, but it could have been handled a lot better. Maybe we just now learned that NASCAR tracks aren't designed for baseball games. But all in all, I think a couple of things would have made it better. It also doesn't help that the star of your game, it now goes into a Sunday afternoon and the star of the game. And no disrespect to Eli White, he had a great game with a couple homers, but I don't think anybody's going to remember this as the Eli White game when we look back at famous baseball games.
Yeah, one fan I saw on X described it as the Fire Fest of MLB baseball games, which those of you listening, if you don't know what Fire Fest is, do be sure to look it up. I think that might be a little bit harsh because Fire Fest was a borderline legitimate disaster. This just reeked of poor planning and poor execution, especially with the seating and the seats. And I do think you make a good point. I don't know how in a NASCAR racetrack you fix the issue of the gap between the fields and the stands, because you can't put the field on the racetrack. That just does not work, physically. So maybe you're right. Maybe racetracks are not necessarily set up very well for, baseball events. Maybe football could work. You could have football there, where souvenirs are not necessarily that big of a deal. I think the league should continue to experiment with things like this. You and I, we bounced around a couple of ideas last week of where we wanted to see baseball games. And I shared some of this on the opening series last night with Adam Karnick, which airs on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. But yeah, I want to see them continue to experiment, continue to test things out like this. Just have better concessions next time, please. Let's give the concession some attention a little bit more next time. But keep trying, MLB. Keep being creative. Keep finding fun things. I think that the concept was there. I think the ambition was there. Just think the execution lacked a little bit. Taryn Rodriguez jumping in the chat, wishing us an amazing show. Thank you, sir. And Larry B is in the chat room, which means we start our official timer of countdown to when Larry B complains about the Los Angeles Angels. That timer has started now. We are at 12 seconds. Let's see how far we get. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, let's jump into the other big event from this past week, which was the trade deadline. When we talked last Tuesday, some moves have been made, some minor moves, but things were starting to stir, things were starting to heat up. And then it felt like there was kind of a whirlwind over the 48 hours or so leading up to the actual deadline. But Ricky, kick it off here for us. Who were your winners and losers of the trade deadline? Keeping your favorite move separate. That's going to be a separate topic. But who were your winners and losers?
So my big winner, I think, to me, is the San Diego Padres, because I love the fact that AJ Preller doesn't care what his prospects are. And we have a sport now where it seems like every other team protects their prospects, even the ones that are blocked, waiting for value, waiting for whatever it is. And he's like, you know what? I got a window. I'm going to maximize it. I'm going to trade for Mason Miller. I'm going to give up DeVries, who could be a star for the A's when they go to Vegas. But right now, Mason Miller and you keep Robert Suarez. You look at the Padre bullpen. They're obviously, their starter can go 3 innings in the way they can just throw like a Jason Adam, a Jeremiah Estrada, a Marhone, a Suarez. Now you can throw Mason Miller. It's a whole completely different dynamic they've got in San Diego. And then they go out and get Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. And O'Hearn helps a team that couldn't hit home runs, which is crazy to think that the Padres that have a talented lineup can't hit the ball out of the ballpark. He's going to help them tremendously. And then getting Laureano, who we talked about last week, was the guy we weren't sure were the Orioles going to hang on to him because he had the extra year. Were they going to maybe look to do something? They throw him into the deal. They get Fermin behind the plate, which I like. And they really add a lot of depth. And yes, they took a lot of the system, but so what? They're in a window. They got to go for it. My loser, I'm still going to say the Red Sox. I know they're playing well since the deadline, but I want the Boston Red Sox to start acting like the Boston Red Sox. And I think the thing is, if you know that you're a big pitcher away, you know you could get, maybe Joe Ryan isn't fair, because it sounded like from all the reports, the Twins were doing so much dealing that they didn't have enough time to really process what a Joe Ryan return would be. But the Red Sox really go out there and didn't do that much to a team that was competing very well, had that win streak. They just beat the Dodgers in a series, and they saved a lot of money in the Devers deal, and they didn't make that big move. And especially at an AL East that looks really winnable for them. I'm surprised Breslow is like looking to the future when this team, as young as it is, could win a division. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So I wish Boston did more. I guess if I had a close second, I wish the Pirates did more. I don't know how Pirate fans do it, man. It really is annoying, because they trade a guy in Brian Hayes who's got 5 years of control to a division rival, to the Reds. And you got nothing back for him. You got a Sammy Stafor and a relief pitcher. And you don't trade Mitch Keller. You don't trade IKF. You don't trade Andrew Haney. What's Ben Cherington doing? But then I sit there and I say, I can't blame Ben Cherington, because Bob Nutting doesn't want to spend money. And the Pirates are a joke. And then they go out and they have a 9-0 game and they lose. So I don't know what to make of them. And it just shows the Pirates are so far behind that I don't really know where their turnaround is. So I know people talk about Pittsburgh, but the Pirates, pick a lane, actually get rid of people or try something. So I'll say the Pirates are a close second to the Red Sox.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very kind of a strange deadline for the Red Sox there. And yeah, the Pirates, I mean, I would have thought for sure they'd be wheeling and dealing, but they did not. I mean, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I really liked what San Diego did. I liked the aggressiveness. I like that they solved, their three biggest positional needs being catcher, corner outfielder, and DH. They went boom, boom, boom right down the list. And yeah, I just like the aggressiveness, and I like that they really kind of committed to going for it. I also really liked and it was simple, smaller moves, but I kind of liked Toronto. They made a couple of moves, added a couple of pieces. They knew they were red hot. They knew they didn't want to mess with the chemistry a ton, but they bolstered the bullpen, they bolstered the pitching. And they obviously kept the momentum going because their lead in the AL East, minus the charging Red Sox, continues to be pretty solid overall. So I like them. I like the Phillies. I like their few but good acquisitions. I would have liked to have seen more out of the Cubs. I think the Cubs probably could have done a little bit more. I know that they were very heavily linked in the Mackenzie Gore with the Nationals. They ultimately did not pull the trigger and instead went with Michael Soraka, which was an interesting pivot, and he's already hurt. So that's unfortunate timing there. And they made a couple other smaller moves, but with Milwaukee playing as well as they have been playing, I would have liked to have seen them also be aggressive and maybe try to make that push to see if they could keep pace. And I throw this in there jokingly. I really liked for Colorado to be able to trade anyone and get anything back at the deadline, I think has to be considered a victory for them. So, the fact that they were able to trade a couple guys, get a couple pieces back, I mean, hey, good on you for being able to pull that off for a team that up until like 3 days ago hadn't even won 30 games yet. I'm surprised anybody showed any interest in their pieces. And now we move on to our little bit of a wrap up because, we talked about the winners and losers, which is very general, but I wanted to see if you had a particular favorite move of the deadline. If there was one trade that a team made that you thought was just absolutely phenomenal and really significant impact to their chances.
Favorite move of the deadline. And there was a lot of good ones to consider for sure. But I got to think here, what's the deal that gives somebody a missing piece to a championship? Because that's how you look back at trade deadlines, is who's that guy that changed your franchise for the future. And to me, it's Duran for the Phillies. It's Dave Dombrowski going out there, and he's like the older AJ Preller. He doesn't care what your farm system looks like when he's gone. He just wants to win. He's a Hall of Fame executive for a reason. And to go out there and get Duran, and you give up Eduardo Tate and Mick Abel, it also helps because they don't get rid of Andrew Painter. And all you heard throughout the deadline is the Phillies want to keep Andrew Painter. They want to keep Andrew Painter. Well, they do. Alvarado, of course, is going to come back, but he's not going to be pitching in the playoffs. They've tried David Robertson. And the Phillies, even last year, they had a good team, got hurt with bullpen issues, even though they acquired Carlos Estevez last year. Now they get a guy that's their future the next couple of years. He's throwing 103 in these games. He was amped up for sure against Detroit over the weekend. And I think, especially the way the Phillies are playing now, the Mets have been slipping a little bit. Although I did love the Mets said 20 minutes later, we're getting Ryan Helsley. It became like a closer war in the National League East. I love the team that thinks we're one move away. Let's do it. It's going to toss them our top guys. So I like Durant. And I like it for Minnesota too. Because let's face it, and we talked about this last week about keeping in your own lane. I hate teams that both buy and sell. Give the Twins credit for saying we're just going to deal people, get stuff. They trade 10 people on the roster. And you look at the AL Central, Mike, besides the Tigers, what's that division look like in 2 years? The Twins could come back in 2 years and be relevant again with the right moves. So I give the Twins credit for picking a lane and telling their fans this is where we're going. And we're going to try to figure it out from here. So Phillies did well, and I think the Twins, even though they didn't do, I think Joe Ryan will be dealt this winter once they have more time and can get a much better package.
Agreed. And it's funny, I actually looked into this because I noticed something kind of the deals. Like a lot of different teams were acquiring players, but it seems like all of the players being dealt were essentially coming from three sources. And if you look at it, it was the Twins, the Orioles, and the Diamondbacks combined. Those three teams traded 25 players at the trade deadline. And no, I did. I looked at the list. You could not quite form an entire team from those 25. I tried it. There were no catchers. So that kind of deflated the whole possibility. But you want to talk about sellers. I mean, those three, committing to a lane, they committed to their lane. And I agreed with you on the Duran trade. That was probably my biggest singular one. I am going to give an honorable mention, a deal that I really liked. I really liked Eugenio Suarez to the Mariners. All offseason long, I felt like I was hearing about, the Mariners need a right-handed power bat. The Mariners need a right-handed power bat. Who are they going to trade for? In fact, for the longest time in the offseason, they were actually linked to Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles, trying to find a right-handed power bat. And they went out and they found probably the best right-handed power bat that was available on the market with Suarez and his 36 home runs. So I thought that was a really good move by them, solidifying a weakness in their lineup, which was that right-handed power. Larry B chiming in, he appeared to really like the Padres as well, making their aggressive moves, and the Mariners. So I think we're all on the same page. You like the Mets, Yankees, and Phillies. I mean, the Yankees at the time looked solid. A couple of hiccups along the way. I guess in all fairness, we should give them more than a week to see what the results are. Right now, the results have not been good, but you do have to give the Yankees at least some credit for attacking their areas of need, which was the bullpen and some depth, some defensive players with guys like Ryan McMahon and some more bats with Ahmed Rosario. Now let's jump into our live score update. It is Thursday or Tuesday evening, and every team in baseball is playing. We actually have we have three finals so far. The Phillies defeated the Orioles 5-0, shutout performance by the pitching there, Taijuan Walker, with a really strong start. The Giants defeated the Pirates 8-1. Logan Webb with a really good performance in this one. 6 innings, 1 run, struck out 10s. The Astros defeated the Marlins 7-3. So those are our three finals. Right now we have the Athletics absolutely dismantling the Nationals 16-3. That one in the top of the ninth. So the Nationals will be put out of their misery shortly. We also have I clicked away. There we go. The Guardians are leading the Mets 3-2. That one in the bottom of the ninth. So we'll see if the Guardians can close that one out. The Red Sox are beating the Royals 6-2. That one in the top of the ninth. Red Sox look like they are one strike away. And actually, it looks like they just got that strike. So that one will be final with the Red Sox beating the Royals 6-2. The Brewers are beating the Braves 5-1. That one in the top of the seventh. We've got Reds and Cubs. That one tied at 1, and then the end of the fifth. The Yankees and the Rangers. This one is tied at 0 in the bottom of the fifth. So a good pitcher's duel, at least to start out there. We have the Blue Jays beating the Rockies 3-2. That one is in the top of the fourth. And later on this evening, we have the Rays facing off against the Angels, that one in LA. We have the White Sox in Seattle taking on the Mariners, the Padres and the Diamondbacks duking it out in a National League West battle, and the Cardinals visiting the Dodgers. So that's what's going on right now in the world of baseball. Now we have our Who's Hot and Who's Not segment, where we talk about who is hot across the baseball world and who is not. So, Ricky, take it away, sir. Who are your hot team or teams, and who are your not team/teams?
But my who's hot, it's tough to say that they're really hot because they just lost the last couple of games in their recent series. I'm going to go with the Marlins. And I think what I was thinking about coming into the show tonight, Mike, I think the Marlins are what we thought the Nationals would be this year. The team that's going to hover around 500, maybe spoil in September, and then we have them all on our 2026 watch list as that like surprise team. And you look at the Marlins, like I know the Yankees shot themselves in the foot with the bullpen issues Friday, Jazz forgetting to actually not get doubled up at first base on a pop-up, oversending Trent Grisham when he's out by 20 feet. But besides the point, the Marlins look like a team that actually has good building blocks. Cal Stowers has had an insane season, really a breakout year for the team. And you look at the pitchers they had out there. They didn't have Alcantara for the weekend, but Yuri Perez was really good on Saturday. Edward Cabrera was good on Sunday. So if they keep that group together, they really have three guys they can build a rotation through. Anthony Bender's been good in the bullpen. They hung on to him. And I love what Edwards can do at the top of the lineup. I just want the Marlins to spend something because Agustin Ramirez has been great too. He's got over 20 homers. They found their catcher of the future, I think. And now it's about putting his stuff together. Clayton McCullough's doing some things. The fact they were 16 games under at one point this year. And they were 500 on Sunday on the year and only 5 out of a playoff spot. Nobody would have thought that. But the Marlins need to go bold in 26. So they're my who's hot for their bright future because I think there's something there. I mean, who's not? New York baseball. I'm just going to keep it there because I think it's not fair to lump the Yankees in it without lumping the Mets in as well. The Mets were on a 7-game win streak a week ago. They played awful in San Diego. They lost 2 or 3 of the Giants. Pete Alonso gets 4 hits last night against the Guardians. They still managed to lose. And he drove in 4 runs. And then tonight, despite Clay Holmes pitching a pretty good game, 5 innings and 2 runs, they're right now down 3-2, although Pete's got another RBI tonight in this one. But the Mets 1 for 5 at men scoring position. They only have 4 hits as a team. So not everything is clicking. I think the Mets are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So we'll start with them first. They need to make a move internally. What I mean by that is Frankie Montas should not be starting anymore. They need to figure out, is Nolan McLean any good? Is Brandon Sproat any good? And let's find a way to get Jonathan to AAA. Because David Stern's got to at least try something with these pitchers instead of calling up every journeyman possible to fill the bullpen because they keep having to put a fresh arm every night. As much as I love Diaz and Helsley, and I think that's going to work with Soto and Rogers, they trade Jose Budo to make Brazoban Jose Budo. We'll see if that works when Brazoban comes back up. But the Mets, even though they are going to make the playoffs, they're now 2 behind the Phillies. We'll see if they rally tonight against Cleveland. But if they don't, you lost 2 or 3 to a bad Giant team and now going to lose 2 in a row to Cleveland and home. So that's the issue. But the Yankees are the team with the biggest issue. And it's not because of the guys they got. You mentioned it. The deadline, I thought Cashman did a really good job because he got 3 relievers, all with control for next year, with Luke Weaver and Devin Williams free agents. So they don't have to pay those guys if they don't want to. And they didn't overpay for anything in particular. Like nothing came to me like, oh my gosh, how dare they give up that guy in their system. Flores was a platoon catcher for Pittsburgh. Not a platoon guy, but a framing catcher mostly. Problem for the Yankees right now is relievers don't fix defense. Their defense is abysmal in games. They have no fundamentals whatsoever. And I don't see any signs that's getting fixed, Mike. I just don't. And it's hard to say in a weak American League that the Yankees can miss the playoffs. If Texas wins tonight, the Rangers are a half game behind. You could realistically now say the Yankees could miss the playoffs. And if they do, head's got to roll somewhere. And it's tough for me to blame Aaron Boone solely because, again, I've said it on the show, I think he's basically the guy who's the figurehead for all the dysfunction and all the craziness that these guys aren't taught. But Austin Wells has been bad. They don't put the same lineups together. They did get Aaron Judge back tonight, which I think will help, even though it is DH. But their offense wasn't really the issue up until the last couple days. It's really been defensively. Fried hasn't been great. Rodon hasn't been great. And as much as I think like what their bullpen is, Devin Williams is a problem right now again. He gives up the home run to Jock Peterson of all people last night. They've got problems. I don't think they can fix all of them. So I would really throw up the panic flag on the Yankees right now.
Yeah, lots of concerns to happen for the Yankees. In fact, Larry B also agrees with you. The Yankees are his not, his hot, the Brewers, which is a pretty fair assessment right there. He also shouts out Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs. He's having a good year. And an interesting fact about Julio Rodriguez hit his 100th career home run. So yeah, Julio Rodriguez, congratulations with that. Also, this is kind of rubbing it in a little bit, but the Yankees bullpen be not. I mean, I think the whole Yankees roster, you could probably argue right now, is pretty well in the not category. But for me, for my hot team, Larry brought up the Brewers. That's a good pick. I mean, I'm gonna go with the Red Sox. I know that's a really simple pick because they've won 6 in a row, but they are certainly looking good, charging in the American League and the American League East. Only 3 games behind Toronto, and they now have the number 1 wild card spot by 2 games. So the Red Sox, despite maybe not the greatest trade deadline, still playing good baseball, still looking really good there. And for my not, I think you covered the 2 big ones probably. I was going to say Houston, but then they wrapped up their win tonight, and they've actually done pretty well over the past week. So I'm going to go with a team. They're not in contention, so I know it's not as significant, but the Washington Nationals don't even look like a professional baseball team right now. They have lost now 6 in a row. I know technically tonight's game is not over, but when they complete the 14-run comeback to win the game, you let me know. But all totaled, in the 6 games that they have lost, they have given up 70 runs. 70. That's just atrocious pitching top to bottom. Even Mackenzie Gore, who was supposed to be, who is the ace, has been shelled 2 times in a row. Everybody's been shelled this past week. Just nobody's pitching well. Nobody's looking good. James Wood is batting something like 130 since July 3rd or something absurd like that. No one singular bat is hitting the ball consistently throughout the entire lineup. And yeah, just absolutely abysmal baseball. And honestly, it's one of those. They're in one of those stretches where, as a fan, you're just like, can this just end? Can we just forfeit the season? Can we just throw in the white flag? Is there a mercy rule in baseball? Maybe there should be for the Nationals for the way they're playing right now. It's just not looking good for them. And also, and this was kind of anticipated because they did basically sell at the deadline, but the Tampa Bay Rays have lost 8 of their last 10. They are not looking good. I'm pretty sure they got swept by the Red Sox this past weekend. So they're just not playing good baseball right now either. Oh no, they lost 2 of 3 to the Dodgers and 3 of 4 to the Yankees and got swept by the Reds. So just a really rough stretch for Tampa, but that was also kind of to be anticipated, as they did essentially sell. Well, actually, they didn't really do much of anything in total because the Rays are never really that big players on the trade deadline, as we said. Larry B has a question for Mike. The other day when they lost 16-9 to the Brewers, how did they score 6 runs? I guess they just started hitting the ball. I mean, how else do you score 6 runs in a baseball game? The Brewers probably put one of their low leverage relievers in to try to finish it up, and a couple of the bats started hitting really well, and they somewhat closed the gap in a respectable manner. But it doesn't matter. It's 16-3 or 16-9. Both are losses. So in the end of the day, yeah, it's great. They scored 6 runs late in the game, but did it matter? Not at all. Not at all. That'll do it for the first half of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to check out our upcoming series to watch, our minor league baseball spotlight, and a new segment where we talk about on this day in baseball history. So do not go away. You are listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are on to the second half of our show. Now we are going to take a look at the upcoming series to watch for this weekend. Of course, you know, the current series, the current matchups are going to finish out during the week. And we have our weekend matchups, our fun baseball going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, Ricky, kick it off, sir. What are your matchups to watch this weekend?
So a little bit different because there's, of course, the New York teams are playing. We already talked about them, but they've got some big series. So I'm going to go with Phillies at Rangers for their series. We talked about the Phillies a little earlier, so we'll stay away from that. Let's talk about the Texas Rangers, who I think we didn't talk about their trade deadline, but I really liked what they did getting Merrill Kelly. I know that the package they gave, I think, was their number 5 prospect in their system for a rental player. But Merrill Kelly is just the ideal definition of consistency. I mean, you think about that rotation with DeGrom, Evaldi, you add Kelly now to that mix, and a best of 3, that's really tough to beat. You could throw a Kumar Rocker, a Jack Leiter. Like, Texas has got the arms. They just got to find some kind of offense with this group. And we'll see if they fixed it from early in the year. They didn't really pass the test against Seattle that you would hope. They did win the Kelly game on Saturday, but not a great series for Texas and Seattle when they kind of needed that to kind of get closer to the Mariners, and that could hurt them later. But it's a fun interleague series. It's a good ballpark. We'll see if the Rangers kind of respond to it. They won last night in the walk-off by in the extra innings. We'll see if they do that again today. So that would be one for me, and I'll leave it at that one. So I want to see if maybe you might pick the other one that I had. So we'll see if you do before I say the other one.
Ooh, you're challenging me to get one. Well, like I said, there are some really interesting ones on the docket. I think you mentioned the New York teams and Houston at the New York Yankees. I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup, especially since Houston. I mean, they've won a couple games recently, but they also haven't been playing their best baseball. So two teams that are working to hang on in the American League. I also really like Toronto and LA with the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. First of all, very blue series. But also, you're talking about two teams with two of the best records in baseball. Two teams, two division leaders who, at this point, I mean, you got obviously LA entered the season with World Series hopes, but if you're the Blue Jays, you're still leading the American League East at the 2/3 mark of the season. You got to start that thought has to start creeping into your mind as well. So that's going to be a good matchup. Also, Boston and San Diego, you know, two teams very active at the trade deadline. The Padres starting to pick up steam from all their new acquisitions, and Boston, one of the hottest teams in baseball. I think that's going to be a really entertaining matchup as well. Between those three, did I cover the other one you were thinking of, Ricky?
So the other one was Toronto and LA. I think it's because to me it's more about the Blue Jays because the Dodgers have gone through their issues. We kind of really know what the Dodgers are. This is another one of those prove-it series for the Blue Jays, who did some things. I kind of like the Shane Bieber move as they take a flyer shot and see what he's got down the stretch. I think that could work. They added Louis Varland into the mix from the Twins. I think that'll help them with their bullpen with Jeff Hoffman. But what does Toronto do in this series, especially with a surging Red Sox team? Blue Jays have kind of sort of come back to earth a little bit. So I think that would be the other series. Real quick on the Yankee note, not only it's Yankees-Astros, it is Old Timers Day, Saturday in the Bronx, which I still find weird they would pick that marquee of a series for Old Timers Day, but it is what it is. And they're going to honor the 25th anniversary of the 2000 World Series team, yet Derek Jeter will not be in attendance. So that adds another layer to that's kind of a weird thing when the captain of a team 25 years later is not going to be attending a ceremony or playing an Old Timers Day.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I think it might also be on Friday. It might be Old Timers Day in LA because I just noticed this pitching matchup: Max Scherzer versus Clayton Kershaw on Friday for the Blue Jays versus the Dodgers. So you want to talk about Old Timers Day? That might be the theme there as well. Also, interesting note on the Texas Rangers, because you brought up their trade deadline, also acquired Danny Colomé from the Twins, who's actually been one of the best setup men in baseball, currently sporting a 1.06 ERA. That is exactly what you want in your bullpen come playoff time. So that was also a very savvy move there by the Rangers. And I just have to bring up this note because Larry B mentioned it with the Nationals scoring several runs late in the game against the Brewers over the weekend. They have scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th and currently have the bases loaded. So, like I said, not going to win, but I mean, I guess that does line up with their penchant for knocking in late inning runs in blowout games. Now moving on to our minor league spotlight, where we highlight a topic or a player in minor league baseball. So Ricky, kick it off here. What is your minor league spotlight for this week?
So I bashed the Pirates a little bit earlier, but I'm going to give them a little bit of credit for a really cool player in their system. His name is Tony Blanco Jr. Now, you might find in baseball, I've heard a lot of guys with the last name Blanco, and we've also heard about O'Neal Cruz and the kind of weird, cool things he can do. This Blanco is 20 years old, and he hit a walk-off home run the other day that went 119.8 miles per hour. The hardest hit ball in the minor leagues this season. He has already hit 2 homers this year where he's hit it over 118 miles an hour. He hit a ball last week that went 450 feet. He's playing in single A for the Bradenton Marauders. And yes, he is the son of Henry Blanco. So you have that pedigree. Pirates kind of have those guys waiting in the future. So maybe Tony Blanco Jr. shows up in a couple of years for this team and turns into something. So I would say, at least from a on-field perspective, that would be the case. And I think from an off-field perspective, it's in terms of I think the team that did pretty well with the prospects at the deadline, because now we kind of look at prospect hauls and stuff like that, and you kind of wonder where things are going. I think for me, I'm very curious about what the Giants are going to do. Because like the Camilo Duvall trade was interesting. You got 4 players back, but really none of them are guys like from the Yankee system that I'm like really sad to lose, which was kind of weird. So I'm interested to see where the Giants see in like a Tristan Vreeling or a Parks Harbor or a Hayes, which is one of the coolest names, Parks Harbor, and a Jesus Rodriguez. So I think what the Giants are, that like you sell one guy. Is it 4 prospects? Is it going to be? They're not big names, but do any of them turn out to be something? I guess we'll find out. So that's your trade deadline prospect perspective. Would be the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially this time of year, when you talk about not just the trade deadline, but just occurred, but we're only a few weeks past the draft as well. So you're talking about teams have within the past month, some teams have added upwards of 35 new players, 30 to 35 new players into their minor league pools. So a very interesting time for prospects, looking at prospect rankings, and like all of these changes and all of these things happening. There's a lot to pay attention to, and I think if you're a prospect enthusiast or a prospect watcher, this has to be one of your favorite times of the year. In terms of individual players to highlight, I'm pretty sure I've highlighted him before on the show, but I'm going to talk about him again, if not because of his recent performance, and that's Dylan Beavers, outfield prospect for the Orioles, currently in AAA Norfolk, has hit 5 home runs in the past week, inclusive of 2 today. Knocking on the door. I think they're only going to keep him keep him down there so much longer. And I want to bring up a date. We are getting towards a very significant date, actually, in the baseball calendar, and that is August 15th. Now, Ricky, I know you probably know the significance of August 15th, but for those of you who do not know, so there is a rule in baseball. Of course, baseball's got all these weird rules, some complicated rules for team control, player eligibilities, and service times and all that jazz. But August 15th marks the deadline at which a player can be called up from the minor leagues and retain their rookie eligibility for 2026. So if your team has a top prospect that is in AAA and playing very well, the Orioles have 2, by the way, and you are wondering why they are not getting a look. Oh, and also probably your team probably has to be playing pretty poorly right now. So we'll eliminate some of the hotter teams if you're fans of those. But if you're wondering why the heck they haven't been called up at this point in the game, especially if you're on a team that isn't playoff bound or isn't, playing well, you might as well wait the extra week and a half, have them retain their rookie eligibility for next year so you have a shot at a rookie of the year, which, by the way, nets your team a draft pick in 2027, and just not waste their time on a team that is floundering. So that is a pretty important date for you baseball fans out there to remember. That is August 15th. So now we're moving on to a new segment just introduced today on the Bullpen Bulletin here. On this day in baseball history, where we look back on the day of the show and we try to find interesting events from this day in baseball history. So I'm going to kick this one off because there is one particular event that I thought was pretty significant, pretty meaningful. On this day back in 1979, the great Willie Mays was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. One of the greatest baseball players of all time. Frequently comes up when people are making arguments on who your top 5 players, who your top 10 players of all time are. Willie Mays is very often in those conversations, and I thought it was appropriate because we just had the the class of 2025 inducted into Cooperstown as well. So Willie Mays coming up on or entering the Hall of Fame on this day in 1979. Ricky, take it away, sir. What is your big historical event on this day?
So we're gonna go a little bit different, not too much different. We're gonna go a little bit more recent. I'm gonna go back to 2007. 2007 at Wrigley Field. Great pitching matchup, but one pitcher put up a big milestone, and that was Tom Glavine's 300th win. But it's not in a Braves uniform. It's in a Mets uniform. Tom Glavine signed a 3-year, $35 million contract with the Mets. Hard to believe that's a crazy contract now in 2002. But it is what it is. Imagine what Tom Glavine would have made now. But people don't remember Tom Glavine's Met career as much as they do his Brave career, and it could have been a lot better. Remember, Tom Glavine that year pitched in the final game of the regular season when the Mets were part of collapse number 1. That would have got them into the postseason if they had just beaten the Marlins, which seems to be a problem for the Mets, at least in the mid-2000s, was trying to beat the Marlins to end the season. Tom Glavine did end up finishing his career at the Braves. And when you look at his career as a Met, it's not awful, but at the same time, he was one of those guys like the Mets signing guys because they want to have that name recognition. So his overall numbers, 5 years with the Mets, he was 61-56 with a 3.97 ERA. Not terrible. Over 1,000 innings, had not a lot of strikeouts, only 4.6 strikeouts per 9. Career-wise in Atlanta, about 5.5. So Tom Glavine, a decent part of Met history. And I think back to 300 wins. And again, we talk about that milestone. At that time, he was the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd pitcher and the 5th lefty to win 300. You and I have talked about this a bunch, either on air or off air. I don't think anybody's getting to 300 anymore, especially with the way Justin Verlander's season has gone on a cliff. So you always got to appreciate the 300-game winners. So Tom Glavine in 2007. Good pitching matchup, too. If you went back Sunday Night Baseball, Tom Glavine, Kerry Wood wouldn't be a bad ticket to have.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. That's a great matchup. And yeah, you're right. 300-win pitchers gonna be a rarity if ever, to see something like that in baseball with the way things are going. Some other fun notes, kind of just glancing through the history. Javier Baez made his major league debut with the Cubs on this day in 2014. Going back to 2005, Albert Pujols became the first player to hit 30 home runs in each of his first 5 major league seasons. In 2000, Sammy Sosa became the first Cubs player to reach 100 RBI in 6 consecutive seasons. The previous high was Hack Wilson, who did it in 5 straight seasons. And oh, by the way, that's fun because Hack Wilson was actually inducted in the Hall of Fame that same 1979 class as Willie Mays. So there's a fun little connection for you there. And we had Mark McGwire hit his 500th career home run on this day in 1999. And a lesser exciting note, exciting, but lesser positive note, on this day in 2023 was the famed brawl between Jose Ramirez of the Guardians and Tim Anderson of the White Sox. So not the greatest history note, but still something that happened on this day nonetheless. And now we finish it up with our Around the Diamond segment where we talk about whatever is really burning on our mind. So Ricky, take it away. What is your Around the Diamond topic?
So a couple of quick things. Number one, we talk about the A's Nationals game. Shea Langoliers, 3 home runs tonight. The first catcher to do it in the leadoff spot since Travis d'Arnaud. I don't believe Travis d'Arnaud 3 homers. That's kind of weird. So A's continue to find some good young talent. Hopefully they're able to hold it when they eventually relocate. Brewers-wise, I was going to go with them. We're hot, but Jacob Mizrachi on the IL kind of concerns me a little bit. We'll see how quick he comes back. But I'm going to give some love to a Guardians pitcher, and that is Nick Enright. So Nick, and we talked about the Guardians. There's been a lot of negativity with them, with the Ortiz investigation, the Clase investigation. Both had their lockers cleaned out. They beat the Mets last night, and it was a big deal for Nick Enright. He's a 28-year-old rookie, and he got his first major league save in just the 19th game of his career. Now, that alone is pretty cool. December 22nd, 2022, Enright had stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, 2 weeks before he got that diagnosis, he was taken in the Rule 5 draft by the Marlins, but the Marlins let him go back to Cleveland. This offseason, he went through immunotherapy. He's going to have more immunotherapy over the fall. So just think, you got a baseball pitcher who's a rookie trying to battle cancer, and he's out there picking up huge games. And look, the results don't matter. We hope that he continues to fight through and ultimately beats this thing, because cancer is no joke. But definitely shout out to Enright and keeping our best hope to the Enright family. So the Guardians, I think, actually, and again, when you look at Cleveland, beating the Mets the last couple of days, and they didn't trade Stephen Kwan at the deadline, but real quietly, just 2 games out of a playoff spot. So Cleveland hanging around.
Yeah, Cleveland's hanging around. I would have thought that they would start to fall off a little bit after those allegations, but that does not appear to be the case. For my Around the Diamond topic, I wanted to highlight a series that we had this past weekend, and Adam Karnick and I discussed it a little bit. But the Cubs and the Orioles. Now, this was a series, you saw the Orioles, they made all of those moves at the deadline, trading 9 guys. You would think, okay, this team's done. They're going to lose out the rest of the way. And while they did lose the series, it was surprisingly more competitive than I think a lot of people would have expected or give credit for. The games were decided by 1 run, and 2 runs. The Cubs won 2, the Orioles won 1. In 2 of the 3 games featured late inning comebacks and or walk-offs, and the 2 teams combined, this is the funniest stat to me. So the 2 teams combined scored 16 runs in the 3 games, which averages out to about just shy of 3 runs per team per game. Despite the low offensive output, there were only 2 quality starts in that series, one by the Orioles' Trevor Rogers and one by Matthew Boyd of the Cubs. And neither pitcher got the win when they had their quality starts. So a fun series, a fascinating series. And look, as an Orioles fan, given the trade deadline, that's about as much as I can hope for or can expect the rest of the season, is just have some fun series. You're probably not going to win them, but at least make sure they are fun. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to Larry B, Taryn, and Brian Francione for jumping in the chat room. Brian, missed this comment by Brian. He agrees that the Kershaw versus Scherzer matchup it's incredible. I mean, I wish we were getting this maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, but still a fun matchup to watch nonetheless. And of course, shout out to everybody who listened live and everybody who is listening later on the week. Once again, reminder, if you are a fan of the show, to follow us on X at the Bullpen Bulletin _ at BP Bulletin _IESR. Also, you can follow Ricky at Rickinator555, talking all things New York sports. Probably complaining a little bit about the Mets and Yankees right now, as deservedly so. You can follow yours truly at IESR_DMV, covering all things DMV sports, DC and Baltimore. Man, I need football season to get here. This is not looking great from a baseball perspective. And Alden, you can follow Alden at the AZTRL, talking about all things Arizona sports. Shout out again to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Jerky that's on a whole nother planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Seal the Deal Wax Deals, custom wax stamps, perfect for any special occasion. So check them out on Instagram at @SealTheDeal_wax stamps. Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great but promotes and donates to mental health research. So check them out. Use code IESR on their site to get 15% off your purchase today. And once again, if you're a fan of IE Sports Radio, be sure to follow us on all social media. Also check out the website, iesportsradio.com. There you can find our blog, our merchandise, our fan of the month, our Hall of Fame, show pages, and so much more. We will be back next week to talk a ton more baseball. Season's getting hot, not because of the temperature. It is getting hot. We've got all the races really starting to develop. Teams are really starting to fall away, and you're really starting to see who is going to be the contender for the final 50-ish. I think they're pretty much right at 50 games left for the season across the board. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt and Ricky K for the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.